Keep your KPIs front and center with SmartSuite's charts. Hi, I'm Dan Lehman from AutomationHelpers.com, a SmartSuite implementation partner. In SmartSuite, we can start by creating a chart view. So if I click my view drop down here, we're able to add a new view. Maybe I want to start this chart off as private and later we'll make it public for our team. I'll create chart. And in this case, I want to create a chart with our project management burn down, meaning the number of hours that we're consuming against our projects and the budgets that we have for those projects. So I'll call this project burn for our name of our chart view. And let's go ahead and create that. And you can see it gives us a very default chart. We can change and configure this as we see fit here. Now, one of the cool things about this is with charts, you can click and this actually opens up the underlying records so that you get that context. And you can even go a step further and click and get to the project itself. So really helpful in terms of being able to visualize that data easily. Now, when it comes to our chart settings, the first thing we need to do is determine the best data visualization for the data that we're trying to convey. So we've got a lot of standard ones with bar charts, a little bit more sophisticated with bubble, and there's even a heat map. So we've got a lot of different options in terms of how we want to convey this to the user, much more flexible than a lot of the other no-code tools on the market that don't offer nearly the same variety of data visualizations. In this case, I think for the burn down, we're going to use stacked columns. So I'll go ahead and click that. And right now we just have this big block of hours. So this, we need to add a little bit more definition to our chart here. Let's do that with the values. So we do want to have our build hours, and this works, but we also want to be able to have not just build hours, but we want to have our remaining hours. So that's what we're going to track against each other in that stacked column. Now, at this point, it's just one big block, and we want to actually view this by individual projects. We could group it by status, or we could group it by our client, but we've got a lot of different options here. In this case, let's look at it by the project name. So I'll find that field. There we go. Now our data is starting to look a little bit better here. And I like the appearance of this, but I would think if we've already billed the client, we probably want something that represents money that we've billed them. So let's actually change this color to a green. And then we know that budgets are a little bit flexible. So let's make it a little bit more neutral color here. Let's change that to a gray. There we go. That works for us. And then from here, we could add a chart total, which is going to display overall on the chart. And that I think would make sense if we go by the budgeted hours. So how many hours are we seeing in this time period? 367. Awesome. Let's add some benchmarks. In this case, maybe our default projects are 20 hours. So we'll call these standard projects are 20 hours, and that adds that benchmark line. We could add another one. We could say our enterprise projects tend to be 80 hours. Add another benchmark there. And then from here, we also have the ability for dynamic filters. And what that will do is that's going to add a filter here that for the end user who's consuming the information, they don't need to mess around with the chart settings, but they might want to be able to change the filter on this. Let's go based on the due date here. We can say, okay, now the user can select when that due date is, and we can pre-select any filters available to them. So that means when this shows for the user, they'd be able to say, oh, I just want to see projects where the due date is coming up this month, and then they can see those projects, as opposed to being able to see the projects across all time. We can also add a filter kind of on the back end settings here, where maybe we want to leave out certain projects. So if there's a stage of a project, so let's say if it is not planning, and then that takes out one of our projects, and there we go, we're able to now have our chart easily consumable by others. We can drill through that. We can adjust the filters on the fly as needed. So go ahead and create your own chart. To get started, again, click that drop down and be able to create your own view to create your own charts inside of SmartSuite.